I love Sonic. Not in a Princess Elise kind of way, but it's one of my favourite game series of all time. With games that took over my childhood and I still consider among my favourites. An aspect that doesn't get too much attention though are the trophies or achievements, and hey, this channel is all about that, what a coincidence. With the third movie's recent release, which I'm assuming is good, hopefully future me had a good time, I bet he did, it looks good, I decided to look back at every Sonic game that has ever had achievements or trophies to find the rarest. Before beginning though, we have some things to note, everyone's favourite bit. First, as a base, we'll be looking at PlayStation trophies. If the game doesn't have PlayStation trophies, we'll look at Xbox achievements. And if a game has neither of those, we'll look at Steam achievements. This is not some sort of console war rubbish, really not interested in that, people can play whichever box they prefer, it's just what we do around here. But I do look forward to the 12-year-olds commenting, lol, I only play on the Ouya. Second thing to note, I'm not including mobile games. I don't know how many of them have achievements, but Dream Team might, which is a shame because it's supposed to be good, but I couldn't find any numbers online. Sorry, Dream Team fans. Third, Xbox has 2 decimal places, but the others only have 1, and so sometimes more than one trophy would have the same number. So where that happens, I've looked at sites that track the percentage independently, such as PSN profiles or True Achievements, to ensure we have one definitive rarest. Fourth, the order of the games is the order in which they had achievements available, so that's why the classic games aren't at the very start. With all that said though, let's get into this, starting with Sonic 06. Gold medalist, 1.26%. Boy, we're starting out with a doozy. I'm not going to do the whole Sonic 06 bad and glitchy spiel because let's be honest, we've all heard it before and it's a bit tiresome in 2024. This rarest achievement is essentially a mini platinum trophy, but not actually a platinum trophy, so I have to count it. You need to get all gold medals, which specifically needs you to get S ranks in all stages, bosses, town missions, and hard mode stages, as well as all silver medal collectibles. Silver medals can be found around the hub worlds as well as the stages. For them, you can either use a guide or just find them yourself, depending on how much time you want to spend playing Sonic 06. S ranks though are determined by the same way as most other games, time bonus, ring bonus, as well as whatever score you get within the stage. Oh, and obviously don't die, the classic advice that I'm sure you've heard before. Some advice more specific to this game, as Sonic, use the red gem wherever possible. This slows down time, which includes the in-game timer, so you can get a better time bonus with little extra effort. I'm not going to go over every stage in S rank, as there are obviously guides and whatnot for specific stages, like Silver's Dusty Desert, or a few pain in the bum town missions just as some examples. There's also the fact that I haven't done this. I play PlayStation and there's no trophies on PlayStation, which in this case is actually a positive. I could easily spend the length of the whole video talking about this achievement alone because of how much is included in it, but I won't do that as there's a lot more games to talk about. If enough people ask me to, maybe I'll do it myself and make a video about it, let me know. Sonic the Hedgehog, fast win, 2.2%. Now we go to where it all started. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, which is now delisted thanks to Sonic Origins, along with all the other games in that collection. The rarest trophy is for beating the whole game in 40 minutes. Now at a glance this sounds insane unless you're one of those speedrunner people, but in actuality it's a lot easier than it may seem. First, this is based on your in-game time, more specifically the total of all your stage times, so result screens and loads aren't counted. Second, you can use the save feature to save at any time, letting you retry levels or sections of levels for your best possible time. There are recommended times to aim for each stage online, so try and aim for them. Other obvious advice is ignore the Chaos Emeralds, obviously that takes more time for no benefit. You can get them and still get this achievement, but it's a lot harder. The low rarity does make some sense though, especially among the slim pickings of this list. It seems intimidating, but luckily the game gives you the save feature to make it a lot easier. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Conquering Time, 1.1%. This is very similar to the Sonic 1 rarest, this time beating Sonic 2 in under 1 hour. Similar advice to before, being don't bother with the emeralds. Though Super Sonic is in this game, the trade-off in time it takes to get them is so not worth it. Of course, once again, use the save function and make sure your times are under the recommended on online guides. The only difference is for whatever reason, this game goes off your save data time and not the total of all the level times. This means that loads and result screens do count towards the timer, unlike in Sonic 1. Not much to add, it's very similar to Sonic 1 conceptually, but the levels are better and Tails is here as well. Sega Superstars Tennis. To be this good takes ages, 1.33%. Not sure if this counts as a Sonic game. It doesn't say Sonic in the title, but he's right there on the cover, and where else am I going to get to talk about it? For this trophy, you need to get AAA rank in every single challenge in the game. Now these vary from regular tennis matches to more specific challenges with points and what have you. As an example, in the Sonic section, there's a challenge where you need to collect rings, and the more you get, the higher rank you get. The normal matches, AAA, is easy to explain. You just need to win without conceding a single point. Notice I said easy to explain and not do, as by all accounts a fair few of these are really challenging, particularly in tournaments where you have multiple matches in a row and can't give up a single point. The specific ranking requirements are in guides online as well as tips and what have you, so I'm not going to go into super detail, especially because I don't think this is the game anyone most wants to hear about on this list. From what I can tell though, the name of the achievement doesn't lie. To be this good really does take ages. Sonic Unleashed, Hard Boiled, 0.7%. One of the more common things I hear said about Sonic Unleashed is that it's home to one of the most difficult levels in Sonic history, that being of course Eggman Land. So it's no surprise that it's the subject of the rarest trophy in the game. For this you need to clear all the hot dog missions for Eggman Land. These are on every continent and range from time trials to not getting hit or getting a certain amount of rings. Eggman Land though only has the time trials, which you may think is strange considering this is the rarest. In fact, the times you need aren't even an issue. The fastest you need is 45 minutes, which is more than enough time. Once you learn the level better, it's easy to beat within 30 or even 20 minutes. So why is this so rare? Well, the thing about these hot dog missions is that you have to do them on one life. Not an issue when a level is only 3 to 5 minutes, but for 20 to 30 minutes it's a lot bigger of an issue. There are multiple points well into this level that can kill you easily. Special mention to the part where you're walking over pipes as the werehog. The pipe platforming is very precise, and if you fall it's an instant death. There's no way to save yourself. Back to the start you go, have fun. The time trials also don't stack, so you essentially have to beat Eggman Land deathless 3 whole times. It's doable, but probably the least fun of the hot dog challenges. With a lot of the others you actually need to learn the best route to beat the time, but here the objective changes to just don't fall stupid, which, thanks game, not like I meant to. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Complete Chaos, 10.56%. I had no idea that Xbox got Sonic 3 as well as Knuckles. It was never on PlayStation, so I just assumed it was some issue with Michael Jackson's involvement in the soundtrack. The rarest achievement is for collecting the 7 Chaos Emeralds. This involves playing Blue Sphere, which is still the best special stage the series has ever made. Suck it, Sonic 2. With the difficulty increasing the more emeralds you get. The great thing about Sonic 3 that makes it different from the other classic games is that it has a file select feature. Now what makes this good is that once you beat the game you can select any stage again. Angel Island has a special stage ring right at the start, so this lets you get the emeralds really easily, assuming you didn't get them all on your run of the game. The special stages themselves will probably take practice, but with how quickly you can get to it, it's not an issue. Sonic and Knuckles, Getting Super, 3.91%. And we're back with exactly the same thing. Get the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Now you may notice that this is a lot rarer than Sonic 3, and the likely reason for that is because Sonic and Knuckles doesn't have a file select feature, meaning you have to get the 7 emeralds in one playthrough. I might be wrong on this, but I also remember the locations of most of the special stage rings being harder to find than in Sonic 3. Due to this, it's probably better to look up where the rings are. Not like that's going to help you clear the special stage or anything. Other than that though, it's basically the same. It's Blue Sphere again, so that's good, and you can turn Knuckles pink if you're playing as him. Remember, Super Knuckles exists. Sega doesn't, which is why we must never forget. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, The Chariot, 2.2%. The first of the why does Sonic need a car, he's Sonic racing games, except not really because Sonic Drift exists. This part isn't in the script, I literally just remembered this while recording this, showing that I am indeed a fake fan. The rarest trophy needs you to hit 100 zombies with Zobbio and Zobbico. I don't know who these characters are and I'm too lazy to look it up. For this you need to go to the Outer Forest map with hazards on. With that you can just hit them with boost or weapons 100 times for the trophy. Worth mentioning, you can't just drive into them. If you spin out, that doesn't count, even though I would certainly say that that still hits them. The game disagrees though. I kinda get why this is the rarest. Unlike a lot of the other character specific ones that need you to do one thing once, whereas this one needs you to do multiple races, multiple laps, multiple attempts. Basically, if you're not specifically going for it, it is very unlikely you're going to get it. I am surprised it's rarer than AAAing all the missions though, just because of the large variety of them, whereas this one you're just doing one thing over and over again. This is though by far the simplest of the kart racing rarest trophies. The others we'll get to soon. Sonic Adventure. Mission all accomplished, 0.6%. One of the parts of Sonic Adventure that doesn't get talked about as much is the mission mode, probably because it can be kind of obtuse. I remember attempting single missions for hours on end as a kid until I got annoyed and went to fight the final boss again to remind me that the game is actually fun. Now maybe I was a dumb kid. There's no follow-up to that, maybe I was a dumb kid. What this mode actually is you find these keycards around the hub worlds that give you some tasks to do, ranging from simple instructions of bring the man statue here, to riddles that you need to actually think about. Also worth mentioning, you need to go into the stages for some of these, and the game doesn't tell you and lets you figure it out on your own. There's 60 total split between the 6 characters, and they aren't split up by character. It's not like the first 20 missions are Sonic, then Tails is 21 to 30, they're all over the place. This is what I would say use a guide for, at least so you can find and activate all the missions, if not solving them all outright. I get why it's rare. Hands up how many people have actively gone for this, and how many of you actually succeeded. Put your hand down, I can't see you. Sonic 4 Episode 1. Untouchable, 1%. Sonic 4 was a weird experiment looking back on it. I don't hate the games at all, but it is not what anyone would expect from a Sonic 4. Anyway, the rarest trophy in Episode 1 is for clearing the Egg Station zone without taking damage. What this zone is the 4 previous bosses in the game plus 1 new final boss. The first 3 are pretty easy, but the 4th has you auto-running and needing to dodge these bouncy dudes, which for whatever reason I was really bad at. This was probably the part that ended my attempts the most, not the final boss. Said final boss is clearly based on Sonic 2's final boss, though it is far easier than that one. The first phase is easy, just learn the pattern and run away when he shoots you. You have a lot of room to dodge, so it's more than manageable. For the second phase, he electrocutes his own body so you can no longer attack him directly, instead needing to first disable it by hitting his hands back at him. The main thing here is to time your attacks well, and if you think it's going to be tight, maybe hold back. He also does this attack where he charges across the room. Again, time your spin dash so you go under him to the other side of the room. I actually like this achievement. Doesn't feel unfair as all the attacks are readable and can be dodged. Except maybe the bouncy boss, but I think that's just because of the constant running makes dodging harder. Or I could just be bad, you know, small possibility there. Sonic Freeriders, Gearmaster, 0.39%. Who needs a controller? With the Xbox 360 Kinect, you are the controller. Genuine question, how is this game? Not like with the Kinect, I know that sucks, but I never hear anything about the actual game itself, like the courses. Mostly because the Kinect is terrible and obviously that dominates the conversation. For this achievement, you need to win a race with every gear in the game. Some of these are character specific, so maybe look at the list ahead of time so you're not scrambling around trying to find the one you are missing. Unlocking all the gears is quite simple. Complete all of the story with an S rank gives you a good number, with the rest being purchasable after completing it. You can reduce the time taken also by reducing the lap number. Why is the percentage so low? I think I have the answer to that. Would you want to be the controller for several hours? I didn't think so. Sonic Generations. Can't touch this, 1%. In case you were wondering, this is the original release. Sonic X Shadow Generations has a different rarest and will come up later. So yeah, this trophy needs you to beat the really bad final boss without getting hit at all. The attacks aren't too difficult to dodge, bait the homing shots before moving away, dodge the punch by moving upward, and go either above or below the clap. Once again, I prefer up, as it seems like I just get clipped more if I dodge below. You can also switch to the other Sonic to dodge if you really need to. Sometimes dodging will cause you to miss an attack. That's fine though, it's more important to not get hit than to beat him quick for this achievement. After all, if you get hit, you have to restart the whole thing. I'm surprised this is so low. Like, yeah, you probably won't get it first try, but it's not that hard to do. Mind you, that does mean you have to fight this boss again, and that's probably enough reason to not do it. How did they fumble this boss so bad? Every other boss is great. Shame it ends on its worst. Sonic CD. Savior of the Planet, 1.5%. I have a confession to make, I don't really like Sonic CD. I don't hate it, but it's easily my least favourite of the classic 4 games. For the rarest trophy, you need to destroy all the robot teleporters and Metal Sonic holograms in the game. These are all in the past, so you need to go there using the signposts after building enough speed, which can be a trial in itself. Once in the past though, you then need to track down both of these per act with a few exceptions. Worth noting that if you miss even one and progress, you will need to start everything again as there's no save or level select. Now you certainly can scramble around searching for all of them, but I would either use a map or follow along with a video. I don't like searching around for collectibles in Sonic games, especially 2D ones, and that is basically what this is with a few extra steps. Maybe that's why I don't vibe as much with this game. Seeking this stuff out to fix the future is one of the few unique things the game does, and while I like the aesthetic changes, it's not enough for me to naturally want to do it. Dunno, maybe I'm just smooth-brained like that. Sonic 4 Episode 2. I love Tails, 1.2%. Episode 2's Rarest doesn't involve not getting hit, so that's quite nice. It's actually quite simple, you just need to play as Tails 50 times. This is actually quite easy, despite being the rarest. You need to use the multiplayer mode and ensure that you're player 2, as that's who plays Tails. To do this without friends, you'll need a second controller. Either just play the stages as you go, or farm a special stage as it's one of the quickest ones, and eventually you will get the trophy. I can only assume this is the rarest because, let's be honest, multiplayer is almost always an extra that people don't bother with in Sonic games. As an example, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, and Sonic 06 all have multiplayer modes. How many of you have actually played them? But yeah, Sonic 4 Episode 2 Tails Trophy is easy. I found the Supersonic killing all the bosses harder, mostly because of the egg heart, but that's not the rarest, so I don't need to relive that. Sonic Adventure 2. Emblem Mania, 0.5%. Get all the emblems, that's what you gotta do. Basically 100% the game. To break that down, you need to get all A ranks, win all Chow Karate and Racing, and clear Boss Rush and Kart Racing. Those last two aren't difficult, though I really don't like the kart racing. Instead, we'll start with the Chow stuff. What you need to do is just get them stats up. No really, boiling it down to its simplest form, that's all you need to do. The best way to do this is the glitch where if you place an item down, your Chow will get the increase but not use up the item, letting you do this repeatedly, saving you many, and I mean many hours. If you think that's cheating, have fun playing the same levels over and over again for the animals then. You can do that, that's fine. After that, just watch your little guy beat up all the other little guys. All A ranks though, oh boy, I'm not going to go into massive detail for this game, but basically, every stage has 5 missions. Beat the stage, collect 100 rings, find a lost Chow, beat a time limit, and a hard mode. That might not sound too hard, but some things to consider. Some treasure hunting stages don't have 100 rings, needing you to plan the respawn rings at the right time. Most of the lost Chow need the Mystic Melody, which, okay, is not a massive issue, but it's just another thing you gotta go out of the way for. Some of the hard modes are also ridiculous, most of them in Egypt, weirdly enough. Pyramid Cave was the level that took me the longest, and Rouge's egg quarters needs you to pick up the monkey's bomb. Be fast so it doesn't explode while dodging everything coming at you. It is just too much. And in case you forgot, you don't need to just beat these levels, but do well enough for the A rank. This one really tests you, and doesn't even have the courtesy to give you a platinum trophy. Some people need that to justify the time spent. Not me, I just play the games I like, but other people, they need that. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed, Sega Superstar, 3.1%. This is essentially for 100%ing the game. Not even going to dress this up or lead into it at all. Let's break this down. First, you need to complete all events in the World Tour mode on Expert difficulty, the hardest one. But that's not all, dear viewer, you also need to win all 10 of the Grand Prix, 5 normal and 5 mirror mode. This is your typical, 4 races in a tournament. You've played Mario Kart, you know how this works. There's also racer mods that you get from leveling up the game's different characters. Good place to do this is the Snaking Skies Ring Race event. You can even connect multiple controllers to make it even quicker. Finally, and most notably, you need to beat all the expert ghosts. This is one of the hardest parts of any game on this list, as these ghosts are insanely optimized, so you need to be really good to beat these. Now, it would be remiss of me not to mention that there is a glitch you can do to help out with this, caused by the bonus edition DLC. On an unpatched game, for whatever reason, beating one specific expert ghost will give you the trophy for beating all of them, as well as the DLC raising the percentage to 110%, meaning you can avoid beating some of the harder expert ghosts. I don't know what it is with the Sonic kart racing games, but it really seems like their platinum trophies are overly punishing, but hey, true test of skill, I suppose. Sonic the Fighters, Honey the Cat, 10.4%. Sonic the Fighters is one of the easiest lists ever made, and I'm not just including Sonic games in that. I got all the trophies in 20 minutes, having never touched the game before. The rarest trophy is for selecting the secret character Honey the Cat. So is there some insane hidden requirement to unlock her? No, the trophy tells you what to do. You just hold start over Amy on the character select screen and then she turns into Honey. It's that easy. It was actually the first trophy I got. I don't have anything to say here. Fighters is incredibly simple. Game's not that good, so it's not really notable other than that. Though if we could get a new Sonic fighting game, that would be cool. Expand the genres a bit. Sonic Lost World, Scrambled, 2.4%. Why does this game have 100 achievements? Are you okay, Sega? That aside, the rarest is for no damaging the final boss fight against Eggman. Bounce or jump to dodge the clap, stay in between the small orb shot and jump over the lasers. Make sure you max charge the homing attack and you'll win in 3 cycles. I remember when I first saw this boss, I thought it was exactly the same as the Sonic Colors final boss. While I now think this is actually worse, I'll concede it's not directly one-to-one. It is still far too similar though. Same thing applies to the final boss of Forces. But yeah, not a lot to say on this trophy. The game has pretty easy bosses all in all, so no damaging is not likely to take more than a few tries. LEGO Dimensions Sonic Level Pack Ring Breaker, 2.2%. This is real and it absolutely counts. If you want to get it yourself, you can get the game for about £100 and the Sonic expansion for £120, because that is worth it. Quick side note, I wish when these Toys to Life games get discontinued, they just release the level packs as DLC instead of having to pay over the odds to some chump on eBay. Anyway, the rarest trophy is for getting Rule Breaker in the Sonic level. This is essentially the same as your True Jedi or True Hero in other LEGO games. You know, max out the stud bar for the level. I think it's pretty tight to do normally, but if you have the stud ×2 red brick, then it's more than manageable. Alternatively, I've read that there's an unlimited stud exploit right at the start, but it seems unnecessary, especially with the ×2 red brick. Not much to talk about specifically, this is a pretty damn cool thing, and I hope one day to play it. If I had a Patreon, this would be a great place to plug it. But I don't, so I won't. Sonic Mania. No way? No way. 0.3%. Sonic Mania is one of the best Sonic games of all time, and we all know the only reason for that is because they brought back Blue Sphere, my favourite. For this trophy, you need to get all the gold medals in Blue Sphere. Now first, to trigger Blue Sphere, you need to get 50 rings and then hit a checkpoint, then jump into the spinning stars above it. There are 31 or 32 Blue Sphere stages, and you get a silver medal for beating each of them. Only silver? Yes. For gold, you need to beat each of them with a perfect score, aka getting all the rings before clearing them. This means you need to make sure that you leave blue spheres that can't be turned into rings for last. The worst thing is playing super well and then realizing you can't collect all the rings because the second you spawn them in, the level's gonna end. There's also the fact that the latter levels are brutal and after a while will really start hurting your eyes. I was seeing blue spheres in my dreams after this. The tips? Practice. You can look up perfect runs and attempt to play along, but at the higher speeds you've got to get your timing down, and I found that trying to watch a guide actually made me worse than just playing normally. As I said, there's a bit over 30 and they do cycle round, but once you get a gold medal that stage is removed from the cycle, so you don't need to worry about duplicates. Which is good, because if I had to manually track these it would have been an absolute nightmare. Well, more of an absolute nightmare. Sonic Forces. Up for any challenge, 0.2%. Sonic Forces is one of the Sonic games of all time. For this trophy you need to clear all the challenges in the game, of which there are 114. This might sound like a lot, but there are some really simple ones such as Boost. No, I'm not joking. Naturally, this means I'm not going to talk about all of them. A lot of them are for S-ranking the stages and beating the stages in under a certain amount of time, both things that are incredibly easy to do. This game is famously short and it's entirely possible you'll do the majority of these without even trying. There's also all red star rings, which you'll need to do if you want the game to be anything other than just holding down Boost for 2 hours. Adds a little bit of enjoyment to the levels. The final one I'm going to highlight is the Honors. These are the medals you get on the results screen, and you need to get a gold medal as every species of the avatar. This isn't necessarily difficult, just play stages, but worth noting that you need to make sure you manually switch to the other species once you're done. Despite how much it may seem you need to do for this, it's actually completely manageable. I actually forgot that you can do the daily missions as well to give you some multipliers to make the game even easier. Why did they do that? Sonic games do not need daily missions. It's like they put everything in this game except from making it fun. Team Sonic Racing. Cageophilist, 0.1%. Team Sonic Racing is insanely hard. Is that just me? Please agree with me. Being good at video games is like my one redeeming feature. There's trophies for getting every star and beating all the races on hard difficulty, which is too hard as I said, but the rarest is for getting all the keys in the story mode. What does this mean though? Basically the keys are like additional challenges throughout the mode for races. Some examples of these include finishing laps within a time limit, getting additional time in the ring challenges by drifting into rings, using a team ultimate, finishing a race with a certain amount of rings, or making sure your team finishes first in every race in a GP. There's probably others too. Now all this This sounds very simple and basic, however in actuality the game hates you and will not let you do this. The additional time, for example, will need you to play exceptionally well to get enough rings before the time runs out. Likewise, ensuring your team finishes first is far from a guarantee with how the AI is. Oftentimes I wonder why Tails even bothered to show up. You also need to get at least 1 star in a challenge anyway to get the key, so for some of these it's entirely possible to just not perform well enough. This game is painful at a high level, and I mean that literally. This game actually hurts my hand to play for too long. What is wrong with me? Am I old? If anyone's got this trophy, you're a braver soul than I. Sonic Colors Ultimate. Soaked in excellence, 2.1%. Okay, hands up, who thought that Aquarium Park would be the rarest trophy? Because I certainly did not, but that might be because it's my favourite zone in the game. More specifically, you need to 100% Aquarium Park. What this entails is getting an S rank on the 6 acts and the boss, collecting all 30 red star rings, and beating Metal Sonic in the race that was added in Ultimate. The race specifically is like a 30-second level focused on platforming rather than just boosting to win. You need to jump over pits instead of waiting for the platforms to spin. Thankfully, the short length means it's pretty quick and easy to do on repeated attempts. Other than that though, red star rings I pretty much always use guides for. As mentioned earlier, collectible hunting in Sonic games is not something I like that much outside of the treasure hunting missions in the adventure games. Colors S ranks are probably the last S ranks in the series to actually be a challenge if you don't know what the game expects from you. Putting it simply, the Wisps are your best friends, particularly those that let you exist in them for some time, such as Drill, Spike or Hover. And wouldn't you know it, Drill is used a lot in this zone. It's well worth sacrificing a bit of time bonus to just remain in the Wisp form until the game stops giving you points. I don't really like this as it's not rewarding good play and you're just sat around waiting for the number to go up. I like the idea, but the execution is far too exploitable. Still no idea what makes Aquarium Park the rarest. I'd love to hear it if you've got any ideas in the comments. Sonic Origins, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Mission Master, 7.3%. Sonic Origins has this little mission mode that most people ignore, but honestly it's a fun little addition. Kinda reminds me of the missions in Sonic Generations. The rarest trophy is associated with this mode and is for getting 10 S ranks in the Sonic 2 missions. There's 15 total and they increase in difficulty as you go down the list. The ranking is mostly determined by your time, though there are some that are determined by the amount of rings you have left, like the one for staying supersonic or the one in Sky Chase. As that's an auto-scroller and you can't really speed that up. It's pretty free to do 10 of these. The game always lets you know what you need to do to get an S rank, so if you do happen to go over time, you can restart early, but these are very much following the modern S rank trend of being really forgiving. Crazy to me how Sonic 2 is the rarest set of missions in here. I was expecting Sonic 3 and Knuckles just because you'd naturally go sequentially, so I guess people maybe prefer that one. I think maybe the shields make for more fun missions, but that's the only reason that I can think of. Sonic Frontiers, Expert Historian, 6.1%. Sonic Frontiers is actually really generous with its trophies. You don't need to do all the cyberspace missions, for example. The rarest trophy is for viewing all the side stories. This is pretty straightforward. You'll run into the characters on each of the 4 main islands, and provided you have enough memory tokens, you'll get a short side quest type thing. For example, you might get the Tails hacking minigame or herding some Cocos for Amy. Memory tokens can be found around the island or can be traded with Big at the fishing minigame. Just make sure you don't trade for all one character, that would be really silly. As I said, Frontiers is pretty straightforward with its trophies. Good thing they didn't add any for the final update because that was hard enough without having to worry about anything extra. Also, that made me hate the Wyvern boss, so thanks Final Horizon, much appreciated. Sonic Superstars, Gold Enemy Hunter, 0.4%. This is basically a collectible trophy. In every level in the game, with a couple exceptions, there will be a gold enemy. For this trophy, you need to kill all of them. More specifically though, you need to kill the enemy and then finish the level without dying, as dying will respawn the enemy and you'll need to kill it again. I'm not going to go through all the locations here because that would be boring. I'll just say that guides exist, of course they do. This is where we salute the guide makers. Thank you, guide makers. I guess Tails would be the best to go to for the non-character specific levels, due to his flight making it easier to access different parts of the map and reach the golden enemies with less difficulty. I think you technically can do this in Trip's story as well, but don't. Makes sense that this is the rarest. A lot of the other trophies will be gotten on a casual run through, while the gold enemies you are very unlikely to get all of on your first run. If you did, you are just lucky. I don't even think you can call that skill. Sonic X Shadow Generations. Shadow Generations, hedgehogging it all up, 4.6%. Thankfully, the Rarest is from Shadow Generations, so I don't have to show Sonic Generations again, which I'm sure you were all worried about. The Rarest is understandably for getting all collectibles in Shadow Generations. This needs you to talk to all the characters, get all the journal pages from the balloons, and open all the chests. The last one is probably the reason that the game is rarer than the equivalent in Sonic Generations. In that game, you get the collectibles right away from clearing missions or red star rings. For Shadow, you need to get the tokens from the level and then find the chests around the hub world. Some of these are really well hidden. I personally was searching for the last few for a couple hours before I just gave in and used a video. The larger hub world is almost certainly the reason for this being the rarest, as there's actually far fewer collectibles overall than in Sonic Generations. I wish there was something to help you track the chests down in-game, but otherwise I didn't mind this too much. I actually found the no damage final boss harder, but that's probably just because I didn't know what I was doing because new game and I was jamming to the music. And that is all of them. How many do you have, and which do you think is the hardest? Let me know all of that in the comments, and while you're down there, why not press like if you liked it, and subscribe if you're not already so you never miss a video. It's free and it helps me out a ton. This was a fun video to make. Sonic is one of my favourite series, and I really wanted to shine a light on it in relation to trophies and achievements, and how rare and difficult some of these actually are. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, but for now, I'm off, hunt them tropes, and I'll see you next time.